Okay, you're welcome to the No Stand Zone podcast. My name is Tiae. This is one of my favorite episodes to do, the bonus episodes, where I go into things outside of the music. We dive into events, occurrences, things that are happening outside of the music industry, right? I'm already giving away what I want to talk about. Well, let me cut the whole long story short. I've got Seyi Lasisi with me in the studio. You guys know he's a big friend of the show. I admire and I just admire all that he does on for the culture when it comes to movies and all of that. And he was here, over a year ago now? And I had to invite him here, saying that the AMVCAs. Oh my gosh, I was practicing that over and over to make sure I don't mess it up. But the AMVCAs happened a few days ago, and I had to have him come in because I was looking at the nominations and all of that, and I felt we needed to have a broader conversation about what the AMVCAs mean today and all of that fun stuff. So let's dive into Seyi. Alpha now. What's been happening? What's up with you? How you doing?
I'm good. It's a year already. I'm just thinking back to our first conversation and just so excited to be here again. And I guess update, I started a new role with a new publication called Culture Custodian as their senior staff writer.
As their senior staff writer. You see, I love job titles. I love job titles. Like when I'm on LinkedIn or any of those things and I see executive, I'm like, I say senior. I'm like, this. So, long story short, you're like the guy at the top at that place right now. And I'm so excited for you, honestly. When I saw you putting out that tweet a while back, I was like, wait, you working for a place called Culture Custodian? I think it's perfect because I think that's exactly who you are from your writings and all of that. So thank you once again for making the time to be here. So like you mentioned, the first time we actually had a conversation was about the AMVCAs. And let me go on a rant a little bit, and I want your take on this. I was thinking about just the whole weekend and all of that. Now, I don't follow everything that happens per se, like back to back like you do. But I was just thinking about everything, and one thing just hit me, or one thing was kind of prevalent among other things, and it's that the AMVCAs is way more than just a movie night or Africa's biggest movie night. It's become Africa's biggest fashion night. I don't know if you have noticed that. It honestly, it didn't hit me. Now I know that people post all of those things, right? People post their dressing, how good they look, like the red carpet look, and their photo shoots and all of those things. It didn't really hit me up until this year, a few days ago, and I was like, wait. How come I didn't catch this a long time ago? This is Africa's biggest night for fashion. Now, a few days ago, Nigerians, Africans were talking about the Met Gala. And I for the life of me, I don't know why that was a conversation that should concern us or why we're giving airwaves and energy to that, right? And we had a few of our African celebrities, let me use that, who were on that red carpet, but were invisible. I heard all the commentaries about the Met Gala. None of the big conversations that were being had were about any of our African celebrities and fashionistas. It was all about like the Americans and Europeans. And I'm like, look at how we have so messed up. We have our priorities messed up. Africa's biggest night, where you should be and where you will be seen and celebrated, you were absent. But you would want to, give yourself to all of that. That was just what was in my mind. And that's just my rant. I don't want to know what you think about that. This AMVCAs is more than just an award show today. It is a fashion statement, the biggest red carpet in Africa.
Listeners know I'm not a fashion head, right?
Neither am I. But I noticed something, right? You noticed it.
Yeah. But I guess like you mentioned, I think it's also interesting that we are having this conversation because I've been saying like that conversation online where people are sort of like mentioning like the cultural importance of the AMVCA. Now, not from the point of view of the films or this other sense, but from the point of view of like the fashion, from the point of view of making a name, making a statement for this fashion designers and these actors or these celebrities carrying this cultural identity. And I just feel like it's very important for us to sort of like make that statement here that the actors or like the celebrities are making that statement clearly. Because I mean the AMVCA, as far as I'm concerned, it's like a Pan-African event, right? And like you mentioned, it's one of the, like the biggest red carpets in Africa. And so why can't we have like this very, very fashion-focused conversation from the point of view of Africa? And it's just happy. I'm just happy that we're having this conversation now. And I don't think this conversation was being held, say, maybe 3, 4, 5 years ago. So we're having like such especially this year. Especially this year, like the looks from this year have been like stunning.
My bro,
and
it's ridiculous.
About it.
Ridiculous. Now, I don't know a lot about fashion, same as you, bro. But man, I saw some. I saw some pictures, and I was like, wait, this cannot be Nigerian designers, or this cannot be African. Like, are these African? Like, there was this shock that I felt ashamed at the same time. There was this shock of, wait, wait, these are African actresses and actors, right? Number one. Number two, most of the designers are Africans as well, right? And then number three, most of the people who designed the dress and were involved in putting the piece together, not just the owner of the fashion house, but the people who put the whole idea together to say this is what we will fit you for the night and all of that, we're all Africans and Nigerians as well. There was that shock. At the same time, I felt ashamed that, wait, you didn't know that we had this? Why are you shocked? You should be proud. Like this, like the soil, the African soil is where all of this great creativity started from. So why are you shocked? Why are you surprised that we have this? And there are people who can deliver this kind of Black African Nigerian excellence in the first place. Like it was just a bunch of like different emotions for me just thinking about the whole thing. You talk about one of the people who did great, right? I actually went to look at some of the shout out to the folks who are involved in like doing the blogs and all of that. I went to kind of find some of the best dresses that I could see. I don't know a lot about fashion, but like you said, some of them were stunning enough that if you have eyes, you know that this is great. Let me just mention a few of them, right? Let me mention a few. I don't know if you will be able to catch their name. I mean, you'll be able to maybe know their names because you watch a lot of these movies. But let me start with this Ghanaian actress. Her name is Nana Akua-Addo. Am I pronouncing that right? Right? She had this one's like 3D, like they think her clothes were spinning around her. I was like, I have never seen this on the Hollywood red carpet. I haven't seen any of that, right? I saw the lady from, I think, what's the name of this, Big Brother as well. These people looked extremely beautiful, good looking. Talking about some of the men as well. What is his name? Elozonam. He's always. For once, let me tell you. I think I put out a tweet over, I think about a year ago, saying on the music side that he should be hosting shows. Really. I think he should be the one hosting these shows because he's so talented as well, just outside of the movies. But I mean, I just needed to touch on that since we're talking about how it's become more of a fashion statement. I don't know if you have anything to say about that.
Yeah, I guess it's like I mentioned, it's important that this conversation are being held and people are sort of like changing like their narrative and sort of like their perception on, especially as it relates to Africa generally, because even if we should like sweep the conversation away from fashion, you might obtain the same thing maybe when you're having a conversation about like African tech entrepreneurs, or you're having a conversation about African writers, or you're having a conversation about African poets, or you're having a conversation about anything Africa that Africa is as far as concerned, there's always that stigma of incompetence that like Africans don't know how to do stuff. And like you mentioned, like fucking hell. Africa is the home of civilization. But like over time, the West have sort of like dominated the narrative enough that certain things just feels out of place. I think I was having this conversation with a couple of friends after the AMVCA, and sort of like mentioning how the West have sort of like used cultural imperialism to sort of like dominate the world, where you're watching maybe a Marvel film or the superhero film, and it's just a very small city, and this particular quote and unquote hero is saving the whole world. And, like the understanding of is just maybe a city as it's even very small compared to Lagos, and they're saving the whole world.
Yeah, they equate saving that city as saving the world, in the sense that like if they could conquer that city is where all the best of the best people are, the best scientists, the best athletes, the best intellectuals. That if you destroy that city, then you destroy the whole the whole world, which is wild.
Yeah, so that's sort of like cultural domination that has happened over the years. That sort of made made things feel a little bit like weird and awkward, and that extends also to fashion. I mean, like you mentioned, I was seeing certain looks, even if I didn't actively search them, but randomly on Twitter or on IG, I would just see like a look, maybe the 10 best look from the AMVCA, the from the AMVCA, those dress. And of course, I'll be like, what am I saying? Like, from a positive light, I'm like, nah, this is good. I mean, I might not have the old-fashioned language or lingua to sort of like describe what I'm saying, but from the place of someone who creates art, I'll be like, yeah, this is something. This isn't just one of those things that you just create, and I'm just happy that this recognition is as it might have taken a decades or like years before we get to be having this conversation. But it's good that we are having this conversation now, and hopefully we get to have it more, and the momentum builds even more larger and better.
I mean, amen to that. I agree with you. And I was listening to some of the conversation around the Met Gala as well. And one of the things people were saying was, it felt very black. It felt very, for the first time in a long time or maybe first time ever. And I was thinking and looking at all the beautiful people that showed up to the AMVCAs. And I was like, I'm talking about the black people in diaspora now. And I'm like, I'm thinking about it. I'm saying there is a fashion night on the continent where you don't have to worry about any of that. Where even if you're not going to be part of it, like physically part of it, right? You can relieve yourself of all that toxic racism and all of those things that we see on a daily basis, and just entertain yourself with beautiful visuals by watching a red carpet that is just purely African, not because of anything, it's because it's who they are. Just look at beautiful black people year in, year out. Right? I mean, it's the desire for me. It's like I wanted to go on a rooftop and scream AMVCAs to the rest of the world. Like, wait, Africa's biggest fashion night just happened, and I didn't even see it anywhere outside of Nigerian publications and Nigerians tweeting about it and all of that. Right? I mean, I was just so mad. For me, this could be a lot bigger, right? And I felt this sense of pride. Yeah. Like I was so proud to be Nigerian in the midst of, so many, negative things that are currently happening in the country, and the perception that the rest of the world has about us. And sometimes, you're confident and all of that. Sometimes some of those things rub off on you. But when you see excellence like this, right? It kind of makes you proud to be, to be associated with things like that, right?
Mm-hmm. And I guess like you sort of like mentioned like a very, very important point, which is like the place of the media in sort of like amplifying this conversation, because it isn't enough for like single individuals, like maybe like you or like me or people just randomly tweeting organic tweets, right? As important as they are, there's also like the place of media, which is like a much more structured place for amplifying this sort of like conversation and having maybe fashion-leaning or entertainment journalists to sort of like culturally cover this event and sort of like write about its relevance. Because like I mentioned, it still sort of like cycle back to like what Hollywood does, where I mean you go to here, you go there, you go here, you go here, like every part of the world, they are everywhere. And it because of like that knowing how to sort of like use the media,
the branding sort of
for their own good. And it just sort of like rings in your head that the Met Gala is the best thing after whatever. For as African media publication, as African journalists, as African media entrepreneurs, there is that need to also sort of observe this trend and sort of like document it in the most amplified way and the most like journalistic way as possible. Because I mean, yes, those like I mentioned, those organic streets are very important, but for the sustenance of like our culture, of our cultural knowledge, those streets might fade away, right?
Yeah.
But these publications would stand the test of time, and people could always refer back to this as a sort of like an archive of, this is what happened at this particular time. And people, certain journalists said that, this is the biggest cultural event of our life. And even this podcast is like one of those sort of like way of sort of documenting these things and reinforcing the importance to not just ourselves, but also to the world.
I hear you, man. I'm having all kinds of feelings. The more I think about what this is, and you look at it, I think the reason being why it's not even being talked about a lot more is because these Western people haven't found a way to make money from it, right? I mean, we could talk about the way they publicize our music today as well. It's because now they are able to make money from it, right? People have forgotten that. I mean, outside of maybe Burna Boy today, nobody is coming close to how big P Square is. Just the amount of crowds he was able to draw outside of Nigeria. Do you get what I mean? Like outside of Nigeria, like Africa itself. Like these people were bigger than life at some point, but because the West they didn't see a way to make money from it, right? And we also buy the bullshit they're selling, right? When they talk about our greatest artists, all of a sudden we are talking about only the artists that the West have been able to make money from. Nobody's mentioning, like I hear conversations about music, and the only people that has been talking about, nobody's talking about Two-Face. There is no Nigerian music industry without Two-Face and P Square and D'banj. Like those three artists, without those three artists, there is no music industry that we can even bank on today. Those three held it down for so long. Like, so it's like until they kind of find a way to make money from it, right? It will be all of a sudden, maybe in 10 years time, they figure out a way to make money off our stuff, right? They put it out there, and then all of a sudden we'll be struggling to defend that some of the great actors, like one who was recognized today, Nkem or Sophia in London. Probably somebody will be telling me that one artist that came out 5 years ago is greater than someone who started this, who there would not be a movie industry without him. And maybe 5 other people. Yeah. Do you get what I mean? So, I mean, I just hope it doesn't get there. And then our celebrities are on their red carpet as well, trying to show off. And they're invisible. Like, there was no conversation about Thames or Burna Boy. And rightfully so. They looked very mid. They looked very ordinary. Right? And I'm looking at the Ghanaian actress who killed it on the red carpet. I'm looking at Elozonam, who, a lot of artists did not even dress as good as he did. Right? Right, I'm looking at what was her name? Was it Tony Toons or something? I think that's her name. I don't know some of these celebrities, right? I'm looking at Tony Toons. That's her name, right? She was styled by Yemi Shoyemi, right? And she looks absolutely fantastic in Black, right? So all of these people, like, I mean, it is what it is. Let's not go into there. I called you here so that we could have a conversation about the AMVCAs. But and the thing is, every time I have you here, there's a tendency to just go off the rails and talk about other things. Not that they're not important, but we just have all the time in the world to touch on those things, right? But another thing that really hit me, one more thing before we dive into the nominations, one more thing that really hit me, and this is not a new thing, right? I just want to get your take on it. We are still making a lot of movies. I look at the nominations of some of those categories like best movie, and I'm seeing like 7 nominations, 8 nominations. I'm like, there's so many movies, and for me, it's like we've gone beyond the part where we just put out movies without quality per se, but now it's a lot of movies with a lot of quality. Do you agree with the quality part of it? Because I know everyone knows we make the volume of movies we make is still very, very much.
I guess I was sort of like expecting you to end before you now ask me this question.
No,
because because I don't know. I mean, I interrogate Nollywood films almost like on a daily basis, and by interrogate I mean I sort of like make critical analysis and so even interview some of these filmmakers, and I wouldn't like, as far as mainstream Nollywood is concerned, I wouldn't say the quality level is premium. Nah, I wouldn't acceptably say that. Because as far as I'm concerned, I still think the quality are still as shitty as whatever you might get.
Really?
I mean, yes.
Really? Do you think the quality is still it's still not as much? I was thinking like from the visuals and the storytelling and even the acting has been better, right?
I mean, I think the visuals, yeah. I mean, but again, what does the visuals represent? Like, I don't know. Think a film like, say, Dune, for example. Yeah, like its scale, it's like this large scale. They spend like this large amount of money on it. But it's not just scale for scale, like for scale sake. Like the scale is tied to something because it's a world that has been built. So building that scale, production scale, sort of like makes sense. But you sort of like watch Nollywood movies, like mainstream Nollywood movies. Like, yeah, the scale is there. Like, yeah, the actors are fine, the costume is fine, everybody is fine.
Everyone is looking good.
But at the end of the day, what does it add to the story? And I'm always sort of like always conflicted when we get to that point of, okay, this person is dressing this fine, but I mean, at the end of the day, it is supposed to, because this other aspect of filmmaking is supposed to complement the story, not
just stand alone. Not stand alone. Yeah. It's like the aesthetics is what they are using to sell the movie.
Yeah, so I don't know. In my own opinion, it just feels like it's always like words apart. Yeah, everybody is fine. The production scale is good. But even the production scale, it's just like, oh, we have like access to these good cameras.
So it's just the cameras that have changed.
I don't know, because I think there was a time people were having this conversation about like what is cinematography. I mean, people watch, say, maybe Water and Gary, and they're sort of like complimenting the visuals. And yeah, I was part of the people that sort of like complimented the visuals at that point in time. But sort of like thinking back to it now, it's just, how does the visual add to the story? I don't know.
I hear you 100. I hear where you're going, but okay, let's dive into the nominations real quick. Now let's start with the one I think you would be excited about. You can tell me whether I'm wrong, because I think you're a nerd in all of this, and I won't lie to you. This is where you would take over, and you the one talking most of the time now, kind of explaining some of why these people want so many things. Now, I think for nerds like you guys are more interested in things like best writer in a movie and best writing in a TV series.
Yeah.
And I know that is one of the big criticisms that you have of the industry today. Like we just literally spoke about it now. And I know the last time we had a conversation that has been like, that is one of the things that really gives you an ick. The fact that we haven't still been able to write good stories. Now, the idea of the story might be good, but the writing is not just up to par at all. So let me just go for the audience who don't know this. Let me just give the nominations for best writer. And this is the one you like, right? This is the part of the nominations that excites you. Am I correct? Okay, so let's quickly dive into that one. The best for best writer in a movie, right? We have Skeleton Coast by Omolola Lamikora. I don't even know how to pronounce Lamikora or something. Yes, and then we have The Weeknd. We have Phoenix Fury, A Ghetto Love Story, Christmas in Lagos, House of God. Now, this was won by Freedom Way, who the writer was Blessing Uzi. Talk to me about this category. What excited you about this one? Were you expecting to win? Was it who you thought it would? Was it the movie you thought would win it?
Okay, let me just speak on like the films nominated. I think I've not seen maybe 2 or 3 of the movies there. I've not seen The Weeknd. I saw Skeleton Coast when it screened at Afri 4. It was sort of like maybe the third act that I sort of saw. So I can't speak like on these 2 movies that I sort of mentioned. And I think I haven't seen A Ghetto Love Story too. So I wouldn't be able to speak on three films I haven't seen. But for Freedom Way, Phoenix Fury, Christmas in Lagos, and House of God, I mean, for me personally, I was rooting for Phoenix Fury to win.
Oh, really?
And it's because I saw it at Afrif, and I saw it again when the director did like a private screening. Like invited me for a private screening. So I was sort of rooting for Phoenix Fury and Freedom Way, and it's also because this indie produced project. And for anyone that knows me, I have like this very, very, I think I was telling someone I have like this very soft spot for like indie filmmakers because, I mean, Nollywood has been dominated by mainstream filmmakers making very, very commercial films, which are good for the industry. But I also feel like we need as many voices as possible. So whenever I'm like seeing a nomination list and I'm seeing an indie filmmaker, I'm sure of what to expect. So I was sort of rooting for Freedom Way and Phoenix Fury. And also The Weeknd too, because The Weeknd too is also directed by, I mean, one of the best directors that we have in the game, which is Daniel Oriayi, who directed like one of the most very, very stylistic films that I think we have done in the history of Nollywood.
Wow.
Which is I'm trying to remember the title. But it's like this very, very simple, like very story, but it made like these very, very conscious, like stylistic choices that also feed into the character. Because one of the characters was wearing red all through the scene, and the other character was wearing blue all through the film. And you sort of like notice the change in the tone of the blue and the change in the tone of the red as the narrative
change
sort of like develops further, and it speaks to the narrative. It's not just wear this shade of blue or just wear this shade of red. But that's what like Daniel Rai is also like one of the best directors in the game. But yeah, I was mostly rooting for Freedom Way and Phoenix Fury, and I'm happy that Freedom Way won it.
I'm honestly, this is where you thrive. For a casual person like me, I don't think I would be able to tell if a movie was, like greatly, like be able to grade the movies. Now we can tell if the movie is not good and all of that. But if you put a list of movies and say, all these movies are well written, grade it from 10 to 9, that I wouldn't be able to do. So it's good to hear you kind of expand on that. You talked about director, right? And you talked about you mentioned Daniel Oriahi, right? So let's look at the best director category here. Now, he was nominated for The Weeknd. He directed The Weeknd. Also nominated Seven Doors, The Man Died, House of God, Inkabi, Skeleton Coast again. Now, The Man Died was the one who won Best Director, and Awam Ampa, right? Yes, Awam Ampa, right? Won Best Director for The Man Died. Can you speak a little more about that?
To be honest, maybe it's because I haven't seen the movie, so I wasn't like. I mean, a couple of people. I think most of the people, because I was in the hall when the announcement was made. I think.
You were even present for the night. You were present there.
Yeah,
I mean, you didn't. Well, that should have been the first thing you said at the beginning of this show. I didn't know you were there. I didn't see any post from you telling me you were covering the event. I would have blasted you and tell you, wait, where was your red carpet? Where were you on the red? What? Seyi, you were there. We need to see your red carpet look. How come they didn't take a picture of you on the red carpet? If I had known how, I would have been tagging you to see you on your Sunday best. But I mean, I deviate. Go ahead.
Oh boy. But I don't know. Red carpet, nah, that isn't my thing.
I know. Even if they drag you there, I know they won't. The camera, even if they snap it, won't see you.
Yeah, no, you guys should just leave me.
Yeah, I know. So you said you were there when the winner was announced.
Yeah, when the winner for the best director was sort of like called, and there was this sort of like cold response in the room.
Oh wow!
And mostly because, I mean, a couple of people, like most of the people, haven't seen the movie.
Wow.
Practically because the movie is still in its festival circuit, so it's turning from this festival to this festival. So it hasn't been publicly available for the audience to watch, except maybe you catch it in a film festival. And I was supposed to watch it at a particular film festival, but for some reasons I can't remember now. I was unable to attend the festival, so I was unable to watch it at that festival. So that explains why there was this lukewarm response when the best director was announced. But for this category specifically, I was sort of like rooting for. I mean, I haven't seen The Weeknd, but I haven't seen stuff that Daniel has directed, and I haven't seen like conversations from like people I sort of like respect their opinion in the industry, like critics and general audiences, sort of like expecting The Weeknd to win this particular award, because I mean it has went to like a couple of festivals in the world, and it has sort of like won a couple of awards at some of these international film festivals, and also like rooting for Daniel to have won the best direction. But sadly it didn't.
But I mean, I think that kind of leads to the next question I have for you, and I've heard you mention it a few times now, and I don't think it's only you. And this is why I go back to one of the first statements I made is there are a lot of movies being nominated, and it's not like the same. It's not like the same movies. I mean, a few movies show up several times, right? Which is expected, right? But there are a lot of movies here that, one, if a lot of people haven't seen. Personally, I'm not in the country at the moment. Most of these movies we don't have access to. If you're outside of Nigeria or outside of the continent, you don't have access to these movies. There's no way to actually kind of get to it unless you're really involved in movies. You go out and really find where it is, right? And then number two, I mean, why is it that way? That most of these movies, and I'm not saying it about you. You are telling me now that a few of other movie critics as well haven't even been able to fully take in all of these movies in to properly, kind of give your opinion on them, and then the ones that win, Some of you haven't seen it, and then even the audience itself is like, wait, who is that? What movie is that? Do you get what I mean? So, I mean, why is that the case, though?
I mean, I think it's maybe as an aside, it's sort of like weird because I mean the AMVCA is literally African magic view like
Exactly.
very,
Exactly, right?
it's always weird when a couple of movies makes it into like the nomination list and those said viewers haven't sort of like seen it to sort of assess it to be able to even make choices and decide, oh, this is the one I want to I'm nominating this to win, I'm voting this to win, I'm voting that to win, because I mean they are still voting categories. Right. So it's so but again it still also like speaks to the thing about like distribution on the continent that you also mentioned.
Yeah, I remember we talked about that.
Yeah. Because the truth is, there are, especially with the whole conversation about maybe Netflix or like Prime Living, or they are changing their business model in the continent, or like in Nigeria specifically. I mean, there are a couple of Netflix films that has been released, but they are geo-locked. And Africans in the diaspora or like Nigerians in the diaspora can't watch this film except they use maybe VPN or any means to sort of like watch it. So so there's also like that distribution problem of watching this film. But yeah, I think it's like very tricky because viewers' choice and
the viewers are not the viewers are not involved, and most of them don't even know what I mean, that is really, really weird, honestly. Yeah, I mean, I don't want to go back to some of the conversations we've had before, but it just hit me when you said the distribution problem. That is a big thing that needs to get solved. I think if we can get that even running to about 60-70%, it would be ridiculous. Now, I was having a conversation with someone a few months ago, and you would be shocked. A lot of West African countries, the person is from Liberia, until now they are still watching a lot of Aki and Popo movies. They haven't even gotten to the ones where we have started using great cameras. Oh, they are still on the early 2000 movies. Like they are crazy about those movies. A lot of West African countries, I'm talking about Cote d'Ivoire, Senegal, Liberia, like just go the farther west you go, there's soccer for Nigerian movies. They're still enjoying the old ones. So I'm thinking, imagine you get the distribution right. If you give them the newer movies and make it accessible somehow, people are gonna like a lot of the industry is gonna make a lot of money, because it looks like we're the only ones. We're the ones supplying the West, majorly like 80% of the movies being made on the continent, right?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Like you mentioned, like it's something like very, very important. I mean, I was watching a documentary like just today because I wanted to interview like the director. It's called Beyond My Nollywood Screen, and it's like this conversation with Nigerian film exhibitors, and they're sort of like tracking back like the history of like Nigerian distribution and like exhibition in the country, and sort of like mentioning like one of the challenges of like funding, of like internet connectivity, of lack of like manpower, trained manpower. Also like some of like mentioning some of like these challenges, and it sort of like makes sense why we don't have. I mean, I've forgotten the figure, but I think across the continent, I'm trying to think how many screens are there across the continent. Even not say, oh, just in Nigeria, and it's like a very, very big problem and like big challenge that I think there are private funding, or it's also a way of like trying to get this funding. And I wouldn't think, I mean, I might not have like the right name to call it, but I don't think it's giving maybe these film exhibitors or these film entrepreneurs say a loan that they are supposed to pay back in 2 years. It's like very, because I mean the cinema business is like a very, very time consuming and like money consuming
as well.
That you need to give like this extensive period of time to sort of like
get the money
and sort of like build. Yeah, so like find a way to build infrastructures across the continent. So it's like and it's also now it might sort of like want to end on the part of like this government that what are the special perks that the government is like offering to these film exhibitors who want to create a cinema, because as I think as far back as maybe I've forgotten the year, maybe 2022 or 2023, I was interviewing like a Lesotho-based filmmaker, and they were sort of like mentioning that they don't have a cinema in their country, that if they want to watch a film, they would have to move to South Africa.
Wow.
To sort of like what?
Wow.
And that's money just left
on
like,
the
aside
table.
From even money, that countless number of people that wouldn't get access to like this cultural audiovisual content and fame, and it's disheartening, to be honest. It's disheartening.
Yeah.
Actually, we in Nigeria, a couple of places you still have like
yes,
it might be overpriced,
but
right?
people still show
places that they don't even exist
at all.
I mean, there are places in Nigeria that I don't think they have cinema.
Of course.
Maybe places like Kanu or like I think I have friends in these places. Maybe they sort of like mention not having maybe cinema, or like not having like the best of cinemas. And yeah, so
I mean, you have to be able to keep the lights on before, if you're going to open a cinema, it's not going to go off right in the middle of. It's just so capital.
Recently, and I was in a cinema recently to watch
no way.
Soma or Saje's Boys.
No way.
I think when it started, I was sort of like the only one in the cinema room, and I guess in my head, and even if I'm not there, if no one is there, the show time will start. It's scheduled for so time, like it plays. So what that means is that if there is nobody in this screening room, like the show time is just running on, and they need to buy fuel. I mean, they use AC. They need to pay the manpower.
Yeah,
and like the daily operational cost is
it's crazy. I feel you, man. Yeah, you don't even want to think about it as if just from the investors' perspective on that. It's man, it's crazy. Hopefully we have this resolved soon. And the thing is, there's so much money left on the table, and it's just movies alone, right? There's so much money left on the table that can be made. Let's get back to the nomination, to the award show. Another category that I know you would love. We've spoken about it, I think, the last time you were here as well. The best editing, right? And I think it goes hand in hand with the best writer as well, right? Like those technical things that most people don't notice goes a long way. Is what makes the best movies, like the Hollywood and all of that, who kind of have most times they have all those things on the lockdown. So for best editing, nominations: Inkabi, Christmas in Lagos, Skeleton Coast, Soft Love, Lisabi, and then Princess on a Hill. Now, this was won by Tongai Furuza for Inkabi. What were your take on that?
Yeah.
Have you seen this one?
I guess like what we mentioned, the distribution thing also factors in.
Okay, because this doesn't look like a Nigerian movie, no?
Yeah, it is in Nigerian, and like to the best of my knowledge, it hasn't been distributed anywhere in Nigeria. So, but I mean, I've seen Christmas in Lagos, I've seen Soft Love, I've seen Lisabi, I haven't seen Princess on a Hill, which I don't know what it's doing here, because it's a series, and But that's the conversation for another day. But for this, I wasn't like, I wasn't really looking forward to anybody winning. I wasn't really hyper focused on a category, to be honest. But I mean, I sort of like love what they did with soft love, especially from, like you mentioned, editing is. I think I've spoken to a couple of editors who sort of like say editing is probably the last part of rewriting a film. That three writings happen in a film. First is the one that the writer writes. Then the editor rewrites it by using his own directorial vision. Then after the director rewrites it, then it gets to the table of the editor. Then the editor is now going to do the last rewrite. So it sort of like makes sense why this category is like very, very important to building like the narrative structure of a film. But for this particular category, so yeah, I was sort of like, if I could have been written for a film, it should be soft love. Yeah.
All right, let's go to some of the individual like actors, actress categories now. Now, there's best supporting actor. Best supporting actor. I mean, there's this nomination list is so long. There's Princess on the Hill. There's House of God. There's Suspicion, Christmas in Lagos. That had Richard Mofe-Damijo, Freedom Wave, Femi Jacobs, Seven Doors, Lisabi Uprising, Adeayo Adeboale, Macaroni. Oh, that was a big one for him. And then there's Clarence Peters, Inside Life. There's Gabriel Afolayan, who won Best Supporting Actor there. I mean, this was heavyweight with Princess on the Hill. There's F.I. Wara, House of God, Michael Folarin, Suspicion, Uzo Arukwe, Arukwe, Chris. I mean, these are heavy hitters in the industry. Yeah, this is a tough category. But it eventually went to Gabriel Afolayan.
Yeah. And I'm happy that he won.
Oh yeah, you feel that this was well deserved.
Yeah, I'm happy that he won. But I mean, I'm not sure if I'm getting his history right, but I think maybe this might be his best AMVCA win.
Wow. Yeah, that.
So like very happy that they won for this category, but. Speaking on this category not from the point of view of maybe if he has won before or he hasn't won before. But yeah, like very, very stellar performances there because I've seen Femi Jacob. Like Femi Jacob was like crazy in Freedom Way as the best corrupt politician that is conflicted with his own reality. Like it's a very, very crazy performance. You see, I mean, people always use this cliche phrase of you will see this actor in the light that you haven't seen them before. So let me borrow that cliche. So yeah, you see Femi Jacob in the light you haven't seen him before, and because the supporting role is someone that carries this thing in like a supportive gesture, and yeah, in anything that is appearing, he's always you always know that he's coming with stuff like with his A game
every time
into the scene. And someone like Mr. Macaroni so in Lisabi, his character is also maybe partly well written, and sort of like feel at some certain point you might be confused as to what is motivating this person to sort of like make this certain moves. Or he's also like this as an actor, he sort of like embodies that role and he sort of like carries that role to like a conclusive destination. So, but nevertheless, I'm still sort of like happy that Gabriel Afolayan won for Inside Life.
All right, so let's also get to Best Supporting Actress. This one too, I'm seeing some big names here as well. A lot of them. So Best Supporting Actress, we also have Meg Otawa, Tina Mba for Suspicion, Ireti Doyle for All's Fair in Love, Inidima Ojokie for Skeleton Coast, then Messi Aigwe, Farmer's Bride, and then there's Omoni Oboli for The Uprising, Dara Simin Nadi for Aburo. This was won by Messi Aigwe. Maybe because I'm a big fan of hers, and because I grew up watching a lot of her movies, like watching a lot of Yoruba movies. When I saw that she actually won this, I was just happy for her. I think this is probably her first win as well. I think.
I'm not too sure.
Oh yeah.
I don't really know.
You don't know that.
Like, maybe yeah. But like you too, I was excited that she won too. Oh, I think like an aside, I think it's very, very instructive that I don't know if it's like the first time it's happening that you sort of like have like this very young, like it's like this child actor competing with this veteran in the industry. I mean, Dara Simi Nadi she's like one of those child actors to sort of like look for and sort of like groom, sort of like train, because she is amazing. Like she's like one of those people you think back and say like, yes, from like the onset that consistency has been there, and it's commendable that she's competing with like this veteran.
I mean, being in the same category as Ireti Doyle, that's just ridiculous.
Yeah.
And Messi Aigbe, I mean,
those are like people that, I mean, they've been acting maybe decades before they even gave birth to, and she's competing with them in those categories. But aside from that, I'm happy that Messi Aigbe won, because I mean, I'm sort of like remembering a particular thing that she appeared in Farmer's Bride, and she was, it might also be credited to good writing and like good directing. But, there's always a part of, yes, this element of good writing, good directing might be there, but you as an actor might be reluctant in allowing yourself to enter into that character. For Messi Aigbe, sort of like steps into that character mental health space, and you sort of like feel what it is which is fitting. So it's like, I don't have any objection as to why she must have not won this award. So it's great that she won for this category.
And I'm just glad that we are seeing her in a different light than we've been seeing her on social media for the past few months. That was just my example. I was like, wait, it's just good that she's there, that her name is not being followed by some gossip or scandal or something. It's actually, you hear her name and she's actually winning something for something that she actually does, right? So that was, for me, I was like, Idonte, I'm tired of seeing your name on social media for gossip and things that don't actually matter. Let me see you win an award. And I was just happy she did. Like, she's been training for months now. Either she's putting herself in that position, or there's some gossip that is going on about her. So shout out to her. I'm really excited. So let's go to the big ones, okay? Before we round things up, let's go to the big ones. Best lead actor. We have there is Lisabi for Adedimeji Lateef, Seven Doors, Femi Adebayo, Suspicion, Stan Eze, Princess on a Hill, Bimbo Manuel, Skeleton Coast, Tapelo Makwena, House of God, Femi Branch, The Weeknd, Bucci Franklin, and Tokumbo for that's Gideon Okeke. Now this was won by Seven Doors, Femi Adebayo. See, the respect I have for this man is second to none, right? The respect I have for him, I think the person that comes with the most respect for me is RMD. For me, is on top there as my favorite, actor ever. Watch him growing up and how he redefined himself and all of that. But next to that is this man. It's ridiculous how talented he is. Right, and I'm just so kind of excited for him. I still haven't watched Seven Doors yet. I don't know why, but I from all the reviews I've heard, it's an incredible, really, really incredible movie, and it's just good to see, to just see him being recognized for that. What do you think?
I mean, I share your sentiment to that. Is like a good actor, and I mean, I still remember him in this is like this one of these films that's sort of like that. I mean, I think we're like instrumental to sort of like propelling him into like public consciousness, which is Jelili.
Oh yeah. I
Where
remember.
he's
Yeah.
playing
Oh gosh, that's
crazy.
so. I'm shaming for him. He really. I don't know. That's how you do. For me, I think that's why I can't be an actor, because I'll be ashamed for myself just being such a nuisance in a movie. I will be so ashamed. Like I won't be able to. I'll be too conscious of my of myself to actually pull that off. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. But who were you? Were you on the same page with them on this one, or you were rooting for someone else?
No, yeah. I think I was. I mean, I was sort of like rooting for Gideon for Tokumbo, even if I don't particularly love the movie, and my review is an indication of that, of my sort of like displeasure about the movie, but also like rooting for Gideon because I think it sort of like embodies this character of being conflicted about his reality, and he's like trying to do good, but at the same time there are like situations beyond his control that sort of like compels him to want to do something that might be morally wrong.
No, wrong.
But it's also it's not just morally wrong, but it's also like criminal for him to want to do so. I think it sort of like carries that conflict well, not just in his movement, but in his words, in his performance. So rooting for Gideon to win. Same for Femi Branch also in
Femi
in
Branch. Oh my gosh, that's another. Oh gosh, that's another legend right there. That's another legend right there.
Yeah. So like rooting for these two people, but I mean, Femi won it.
And you can actually be too angry, right? That probably did a great job. Yeah, and still talking about Seven. Why are you laughing? Still talking about Seven Doors, right? Best lead actress: Seven Doors, Chioma Chukwuka. Farmer's Bride, Ejeye, I think is it Bemi Ejeye. Then there's Uzoamaka Onoa for Agemo. There's Thin Line, Uche Montana, Phoenix Fury for Uzoamaka and Niuno. There's The Uprising, Wives of Strike 3, Hilda Dokubo, and Anikoloko Rise of the Spectre, Bimbo Ademoye. This was won by Seven Doors Chioma Chukwuka. And knowing that she's not Yoruba original, like she's not Yoruba, right? She's actually Igbo. But she's able to play this role exceptionally for a movie that was like the whole like setting, or what's the word you guys use in the movie thing? The whole setting is like a Yoruba thing, right? It's centered around Yoruba stories and ideas, mythology, and all of that. And she's able to go home with the best lead actress. How? I mean, am I the only one that is shocked by that, or what were your thoughts?
And I think that what you just mentioned like might be part of like the
reasoning behind
to our win. Because I mean, again, like you mentioned, as a general audience, I wouldn't see myself in certain light because I would be too embarrassed to even think of it, or like doing certain things. And I think that's the unique thing about acting. It's about taking a step away from who you are and taking a step forward into embracing this person that you don't know, or you probably know in your area, but they aren't you. And you're taking up their nuances, you're taking up their personal traits. And so I feel like that language choice of like learning this language, of embodying this language, of embodying like the trait of the wife of a king might have been like the contributing factors to to a win because, like, but ideally, she is a good actor. She's a good actress. So that is like uncontestable. So for this win, but I was also rooting for Uzoamaka Anuino of Phoenix Fury.
Yeah.
Because I think everybody should see that film whenever it comes out. Same applies to the second Uzoamaka Onora, which is for Agemo. I mean, both films aren't publicly available yet.
That's crazy.
But they are good films that I think everybody should sort of like watch because they also sort of like embody their character to the best of their ability, and it's just good to know that we have the best talent in the industry, and we just need better scripts, better directors, trusting producers and executive producers to fund these things and to because I think I was having this is an aside, but I was having this conversation with someone, and they were name dropping certain actors and actresses, and in my opinion, I'm like, nah, shit, these people can act. Like, yeah, they are fine face, but nah, they can't fucking act. But I mean, it sort of like makes sense why you would see them because I mean, it's a business. At the end of the day, they have the followers.
They are the ones that can actually bring people to the cinema to watch.
Because they bring people to the cinema. But I'm not asking the person that, okay, this person is a good actor, but compare them to any Hollywood, maybe C-list actor. Like, you can't. It wouldn't even make sense in your own even ear to sort of like mention that this person is on par with this person. Like, you don't even want to shoot yourself. And I just sort of like mention that it just sort of like means that, oh yes, Nigerian standards, it's not that they are superb. But if we now say, okay, let's take it to world standard, are these people good? But with some of the names on like the best lead for the best performances, best supporting actor, best supporting actress, best lead actor, best lead actress. It's sort of like comforting as a journalist, as a critic covering the industry. So like know that we still have like this pocket size of talent who could pull off great performances if they have like a well-written script to sort of like
to actually pull it off, yeah, and they can stand side by side with the best of the best around the world. So how do you pay attention to cinematography at all? Does that usually excite you? I mean, when you look at movies, right? Because I don't hear a lot of people talk about this category, best cinematography, right? It's one of those that very few people majorly pay attention to because it's just what it is. Yeah. It's like a lot of people have resigned that way. We're probably not really good at it, so why pay attention to it? I mean, since it's something you're interested in, let's talk about it before we go to the last one. I'm seeing a couple of movies here that I'm sure they're not distributed in Nigeria. It looks like foreign movies. There's this one, Yen Ara Asaseni, meaning these are land. There's Nkabi, The Legend of the Vagabond Queen of Lagos, Skeleton Coast, Soft Love, Lisabi, Agemo. I mean, what's the word I'm looking for? Why are any of these movies here? We've talked about Nkabi and even Skeleton Coast, Soft Love, Lisabi, and Agemo. And the cinematography part of it has not come up in our conversations, right? So while I was looking at it, I was like, wait, is this something you are interested in? By the way, this best cinematography went to The Legend of the Vagabond Queen of Lagos by Lee Porman, Leo. Is it Leo or Lee? Leo Porman.
Yeah, I think it's Leo Porman. I think maybe just to like respond to like the first part of like your conversation that you sort of like started is, I mean, I think a couple of Nigerians are sort of like drawn to cinematography, but not in the most educated way. Because I mean, people always say, "Oh, the visuals is mad. The visual is mad." But what is that visuals like? So, like here, it's understandable that I mean, even it's not that like every filmmaker that could even confidently have a conversation around what cinematography is in a film, or how you could use cinematography to tell a story, because it might be outside of their interest. Maybe they're actors, or they are just maybe they are just. I mean, most of the technical crew members might sort of like have an understanding of these things, but like certain filmmakers, maybe producers, like executive producers, might not really be like their cup of tea. So like for the general audience too. So I mean, they also like might follow that bandwagon of the visual is great, but cinematography isn't just about like
having good camera.
It's not about shooting. It's about whose perspective do we want to see in this thing, and how do we reinforce that? It's about. I think I was watching a particular film a particular day, and these very, very minute choices that they sort of like made, and they wanted to sort of like mention. They wanted to visually explain the power dynamic in a particular scene. And what they did was, the person with the highest power is sort of like sat in the middle, and you have like these people facing him, and the camera just stays in his back, and you are just seeing the faces of like these 4 people in front of him. And that just visually represents the power play of, I'm different from these guys. You are seeing them like I'm the boss. Or maybe you watch a film and maybe the camera angle is just sort of like at the top. The camera is looking down on this character. Sort of like tells you that maybe this person is subservient to this other character at the top. So those are what we call cinematography. It's about, I'm watching a horror film. An horror film, it's impossible for you not to have close-up shots in an horror film, because you want to see into the face. You want to see
the emotion,
into the everything about this character, how they are running, like what their nose is doing, what their hair is doing, what the skin on their hair is doing. So these are like interesting choices that a cinematographer makes, and those are what we call cinematography, not the thing mad, the visuals.
No, so the visuals mad.
So but for this, I mean, I've established that I haven't seen This Is Our Land. I haven't seen in Kabi, but I partly saw Silent Coast. I've seen Soft Love. I've seen Lisha Bibi. I've seen Agemo. And I've seen Legend of the Vagabond Queen of Lagos. I've seen it maybe 2 or 3 times.
Wow. Is it that good? That good?
Yes.
Wow.
I mean, yes. Like everybody should watch it, and it's also because of like the culture, the social messaging in the film, which is, I mean, this is a film made by people who have been sort of like forcibly evicted by Lagos state government out of their houses, and the directors are like first-time directors. These are just people who sort of like trying to tell their story of being forcibly evicted by the Lagos state government, and that idea sort of like blossom into the making of this film. So it's important that this film sort of like made it. But from like a technical and like a very artistic point of view, and I think that this film winning is deserving of its winning. Maybe a close second might be Agemo. That also sort of like saw at Afri. when it's screened. It's also how the cinematographer was able to sort of like capture the cultural mystery surrounding this culture of this space they are capturing, and also sort of like visually intimating the audience with some of the I mean, for people who haven't seen the film, like they might not sort of like get some of the things I'm sort of like explaining.
Yeah, they might not really understand the
but I just think they sort of like made certain creative choices that sort of replicate visually
what the real life
maybe the director is trying to pass, or the actor's performance is supposed to carry. So those are like very, very, so those two things, the winner, yes, Agemo, yes, and yes, also Lasisi too.
And then the biggest award of the night, I would say, the best movie, right? And I'm kind of shocked at this one with all the conversation, everything we've talked about, all the movies we've talked about, the ones you really liked, from acting to cinematography to the one that was written very well and all of that. I was shocked at the winner of this one. So best movie, the nominations, Lasisi, Skeleton Calls, Suspicion, Nkabi, House of Ga, Freedom Way, Christmas in Lagos, and Farmer's Pride. The winner went to Freedom Way. I'm saying best movie. Did it deserve that?
Yeah. Yes, I think compared, like using the metric on this list, yes.
Okay, using the metrics of this list. I mean, who would you have wanted to be? What movie would you have wanted nominated here or added to this nomination list?
Movie of the year?
Yes.
I mean, it wasn't nominated, and I'm still sort of like offended.
What movie is that?
They didn't nominate it. That's Credit Aziz with Difficulty Comes Ease. I mean, I've been shouting about the film since it came out on Prime Video, and for me, as far as I'm concerned, it's one of the best films, not just that Nollywood made last year, but like in a very, very long time.
Can you give me his full name again? I didn't catch his name. I really want to check out that movie. His name.
Kurede is directed by this northern film director. Kurede Aziz.
Okay.
With Difficulty Comes Ease. Available on Prime Video. If anyone, I think everyone should watch it, because it's like this very, very interesting story about this Muslim Ebira woman who sort of like lost her husband, and there's a lot of like conversation around culture, conversation around how like the Nigerian bureaucracy sort of like kills you as a Nigerian, not just, but much more as a woman now, that you're like trying to get certain documents, and you know, Nigeria, they'll say, oh, do this, do that. So it's sort of like interesting to sort of like watch that on screen. So for me personally, I was sort of like, even when I sort of like did a prediction list of, maybe Nollywood movies that would be nominated for the AMVCA in 2025, I was expecting it to be for best director, for best writing, best overall movie, like for best everything, because it should be. So that was the particular film I was expecting.
But I mean, you could go to bed at night and sleep well, knowing that Freedom Way won this one.
Yeah, I mean, yes.
Come on. You couldn't even hide your dissatisfaction. You could not even pretend that you were okay with that. Okay, looking at this list, at least looking at the ones that were nominated, right? I mean, is there anyone that you felt should have gone home with it outside of Freedom Way? Because it's obvious you're not so excited about it.
I think maybe another one should be Freedom Way. Yeah. I mean, Freedom Way is good too.
I mean, that's the one that won it. It's Freedom Way that won it. That's what I'm saying. Is there any other one that you felt?
Farmer's Bride.
Oh, Farmer's Bride. Okay.
Farmer's Bride. Yeah. I mean, it could. Like, if it won, okay, not bad.
My goodness.
But the
Man,
others, especially the others are saying Christmas in Lagos. Even if they pay me to campaign about Christmas in Lagos, I would shoot myself and die first.
that bad?
And this is no shade. Like, this is no shade to the people involved, because I mean, I might absolutely like have professional, like personal relationship with some of the team involved, but no, they don't do that again. They shouldn't do something like Christmas in Lagos again.
All right. I mean, before we go, thank you very much once again for your time, Seyi. Man, I cannot begin to tell you how much how much I really appreciate you making out the time out of your day to do this. We've gone over just a little over an hour already, so thanks. Before I let you go, we'll talk about one last one. This one is the Industry Merit Award. Now, they gave it to Sunny Mwazu and Nkem Owo, which I mean, just looking at the career of these two, let's if we just talk about Nkem Owo, who we know as a Sophia. I think we don't give him enough credit. I don't think I've ever gone through his like a history of his movie making and all of that before. But just preparing for this, I figured that he's been doing movies since 1987, and I'm sure there are so many movies that are not even included here. I can guarantee that there are so many movies that are not included here, right? But so many movies, and then he has 3 albums and then 3 like hit singles. I remember at least I remember one out of this one from 2005. I Go Chop Your Dollar. That was a hit. That was a hit in 2005. Like, this is someone who is an all-round entertainer. We don't maybe outside of Fowls, we don't have anyone that comes close to achieve all that he has. Being very done everything he has done in movies, releasing music as well, and then having hit singles that we can point to and say, okay, I mean, this really caught fire at some point in time.
Yeah.
I'm saying that I see him as, we don't talk about that as much. We just know him as the actor, not necessarily as the artist as well. Someone who has released 3 albums at this point, and we can say relatively successful, right? What do you say to that?
Yes. I mean, I think the way to like think about it, especially like as a journalist, is also that place of like that cultural gap, like that cultural knowledge. It's like still largely missing, because I mean, I don't know if I sort of like mentioned this, but like one of the reasons that I sort of like started writing about him is also trying to fill that cultural gap that I felt present, because not just in Kemo, like there are people like Patience Ozoko, there are people like like
Olu Jacobs.
Like, even if you come to the industry, Olu Jacobs, like some of those people, we haven't, as a culture, given them like their right cultural importance. We haven't, and it is why this would sort of like continue, because even a director like somebody like Tunde Kelani, I mean, Baba Tike is still alive.
Yeah.
But the importance that someone like, say, Martin Scorsese, that might be his contemporary, enjoys in the West is different from what someone like Tunde Kelani enjoys in Nigeria, in Africa. Right? So yes, that culture is still missing, and I just feel like as journalists, as like cultural institutions, as like cultural publication, we sort of like know the importance of these things, and we start taking them into account for future purposes. I mean, current generations of like filmmakers are enjoying that social currency. I mean, people know, we sort of like mentioned Femi Adebayo, like sort of like mentioned these other actors But like the veterans, when it comes to like having that conversation, it's always, we always have that conversation from like a place of nostalgia, which I mean is good, but from the point of view of what's the cultural import of that nostalgia is always like missing, and we need to like seriously find a way to fill that void, or like fill that vacuum. Otherwise, like you mentioned, you also mentioned like the two-faced example. These people would just sort of die, and their cultural import to the industry, their importance to the industry
would just be watered down.
Be documented.
Or would just be watered down.
And what you just say about them is just a Wikipedia page, or maybe one of these random blogs written about them. Maybe they were involved in one scandal or this and that. But their role to the film industry, to the entertainment industry, might just be on, maybe they told their wife, they told their children, or it's just passed from this one to that side, but it isn't collated in a stable place that you could go back to and refer to and sort of like read. I think that's the way I also like approach the conversation, to be honest. It's crazy.
Man, I for one, it's one of my predictions as well for the next decade. Talking about the Nigerian music industry, is that this next decade is going to phase out the people who have known to be the faces of our industry for a long time. And how do these people phase out of the industry without their legacies being trashed by the stands on the internet? Like, that is very, very important to me. We have to find a way of phasing them out, because I mean, it's not like acting where you can be 50 and still be an actor. You can be 60, 70, 75 and still get roles. I mean, you're not at 45. You're not the most talked about artist anymore. Yeah. Talking about singer, you're at that point be required to retire. I mean, look at the biggest like pop acts around the world. The average age is 20 something. Nobody's 45, and you're the one in charge of cultural relevance when it comes to music. You get what I mean? So I'm hoping as well that the at least the way this is good. I mean, this is the biggest movie award show on the continent, right? And he's been recognized. We can't ask for any more than that, right? At least for now, there isn't a more bigger platform to recognize him than this, right? So I think that's a good job. Hopefully the folks in the music can pick up on that. Finally, before I let you go. Now we've talked about a lot, and the ones that shouldn't have won, and I think every award show has that, right? And from the tone that I hear from you, you were not at least you were less mad about this year's winners and losers than you were last year. Last year, you were really... that conversation, I still remember well. That it really pained you, some of the people that were nominated and how bad things were. But this year, I mean, I could hear the sarcasm in your voice, but it was more of... just leave and they shall win, more than anger, than the anger of this is such a terrible job. How can you do that, right? So, I mean, my question then for you is, as at 2025, the cultural currency of the AMVCAs, how strong is that currency as at today?
I think the AMVCAs in its 11th year, like marching in its second decade already, and as far as I know, it's like one of those heavily anticipated events in the film industry, not just in Nollywood, like across the continent. Even if, I mean, that's a conversation for another day. Even if, to some extent, there's a conversation around how Pan-African is the AMVCA award. when you have like Nigerian titles being nominated.
Yeah, I mean
Right.
they had several categories that I didn't mention. That was like South Africa or something like that, or West
Yeah.
Africa, something like that.
But like
I want to.
those are just bystanding categories. Like the most important categories are like best directing, best editing, best cinematography, best lead actor, best lead.
It's all
best lead
Nigerian.
actor. But yeah, but like I mentioned, it's like another conversation. But aside from that, aside from like the AMVCA floor, it's like one of those cultural events that people look forward to. That not just if it doesn't have like a cultural relevance, we wouldn't even be discussing about it because it would just be one of those things that happen. I mean, you see people tune into their DSTV and they are watching the AMVCA in their house and they are tweeting that no, this person shouldn't have won, this person that. I mean, you see people eagerly voting for people they sort of like think should win, and that is its cultural relevance. Like that is its cultural currency that's still like sustained for 11 years now. And if not for anything, you need to like if you don't give AMVCA anything, you should just give them that of sustaining this event for like 11 years.
The consistency.
And sort of like renewing its relevance yearly, like year in, year out. I mean, with this year, you sort of like have like that fashion resurgence. Like next year, it might be something different, or it might even be bigger. So the kids like keeping that conversation alive, and it's just beautiful to
witness. My goodness. I mean, and if not for anything, let's also give a big shout out to the actors as well, because all of this is able to work because the actors, the actresses, the directors, the makeup artists, the writers, the people behind the scenes, everyone involved is buying into this project that the AMVC is trying to build. Because I mean, with the music side, both sides are not even buying into the idea, or one person wants it to work. Like one of the things I said is there is a emotional abusive relationship between the headies and the Nigerian music industry, because the Nigerian music industry itself, they want it to work. The artists will always promise to show up. They are releasing music. They are submitting. They are doing all of that. But then the body itself, the headies, is refusing to grow, is refusing to do anything different. In 2025, when even my phone here can give me a better quality of visuals than what I see on TV when they are for the event. Do you get what I mean? So if the whole event of the headies was shot with an iPhone, not even the latest iPhone, with any of the really good iPhones, like have you seen some of those iPhone commercials where they will tell you this commercial was shot with an iPhone? Like those visuals are better than what the headies are giving me. So you have that abusive relationship, emotional abusive relationship between the music industry and the headies. And it looks like right here with the movie industry, the two parties have kind of bought into it. I honestly love this. I hope this goes on, and I hope this fire is still burning on both sides of this conversation, from the actors, from the industry itself, and from the AMCVAs, up until the point where a lot of people can also keep making money from it. Because we have to be truthful, a lot of money has been invested, and very few people are actually making all that money back. And the downward spiral of the Nigerian economy itself, the devaluing of the naira, the fact that the naira doesn't even have it keeps going down every year. So the same movie that cost 100 million to make this year is going to cost 150 million to make, even if it's exactly the same thing, and with everybody coming back, it doesn't cost the same. You get what I mean? So it's crazy, but I'm just so impressed that the two parties, the parties involved, are both kind of sold on this idea, and they're both going on. Like you said, 11 years. For me, it feels like they've been here forever. That's how like I see, the work they've done. It looks like they've been here for so for so long because of how how consistent they've been, and it's like every year it looks like it's going to get better. Every year it looks like an award show is an award show, but it looks like they're still giving the same quality of stuff. So I mean, shout out to the AMVCAs. I love what they're doing. Shout out to all the actors, the actresses, the whole movie industry. And also shout out to you, Seyi Lasisi, because folks like you are also needed in the industry, who can look at some of these movies and the actors and the actresses and some of the nerdy stuff that nobody pays attention to. You can look at these things and actually, as the custodians or cultural critics, can tell us that this is not a good job. And I think you guys are also very important, needed in the industry, can tell us, well, this is not a good job. And I think that push and pull is needed, right? Where the actors or the industry is trying to do better, and the critics are also there to hold them accountable to say, okay, this is a good job, and no, this is not. This is where you guys can improve. So thank you very, very much, Seyi Lasisi. It's a pleasure to have you. You're giving me over an hour. I think we've spent like an hour and 30 minutes at this point, and I was thinking, okay, we go round up until we spend 1 hour 30 minutes. Seyi Lasisi, thank you. Make I leave you, make a good chop dinner. I beg. Good job, dinner. Thank you very much, man. Is there anything that you want to put out there? Just your final thoughts about the VCAs that you haven't said at all before we round things up.
No, maybe just like you mentioned, like special shout out to like the AMVCA for like its consistency, and to the actors, to the filmmakers, to critics, and also more importantly to the audience to also
to the audience
consistently engage with Nollywood, because without them the industry is sort of like empty. So everybody in the ecosystem
is
shout out
to them.
Everybody.
Thank you very much. And
the audience too that would be listening to this too. Shout out to you too.
Oh yeah, shout out to everyone who has tuned in today. Thank you very much as well for your time. Like whenever this conversations happen with Seyi, it's always I always love it. I always love it because I come thinking I have everything figured out, and then he just comes with his sarcasm and his and just a way of throwing me off, and then we have deeper conversations. So thank you very much, Seyi. So Seyi Lasisi, you guys, he's a movie and cultural critic for where are you out now? Culture Custodian. You guys should go. You guys follow him on social media. He's very active on Twitter for sure. I see his tweets all the time. It's Seyi Vortex, right? SEYIVORTEX. Right? Yes, on Twitter. Only. Yes, the one and only Seyi Vortex on social media. You can follow him and get the latest on his writings and some of his thoughts around the music and around the movie industry. He's always talking about these things, even when there isn't a big ceremony like the AMVCAs going on. So if you're really interested in those kind of things, you really, really would want to follow him for the latest updates. To every one of you, just know that the No Stand Zone podcast, new episodes drop every Monday. Okay, so this is a bonus episode. Okay, so please, if you want to know more about music and Nigerian music industry and a little more like what we're doing here, please subscribe on YouTube. It's the No Stand Zone podcast with Tiae on YouTube. Subscribe and like. You can follow me on Twitter, where I'm most active as well. Is Tiae Sound, TIAE Sound on Twitter, or follow the page for the podcast No Stand Pod at No Stand Pod. Thank you once again, Seyi, and to every one of you. On to what? Next week, Monday, for sure, we'll be dropping another episode. Until then, stay blessed.